Vice presidential nominees J.D. Vance and Tim Walz are back on the campaign trail today. Last night, they squared off in their first and likely only debate, answering about some key issues, including immigration, inflation, Iran, and censorship. They were mostly civil, but very often they did not see eye to eye.
It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous.
Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength.
Crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office.
We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies.
America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
You're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it, because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years.
Now, many observers are saying they didn't think that either candidate had any massive failing moments, but J.D. Vance took the night. Some headlines here. Tim Walz is rocked by cool J.D. Vance, admits I'm a knucklehead during the VP debate. And another, it was a very Midwestern debate, and Vance won. One Politico reporter is arguing this is where all of those hours being grilled on the talk show circuit and talking with reporters on the trail paid off. Vance was poised. Another quote here, the Harris-Walz strategy of all but hiding Walz since he was in early August rollout showed tonight. Vice President Harris and Walz have only done a combined 23 interviews since their ticket formed nearly 2 months ago. The Trump-Vance ticket, at the same time, 61. Even the liberal media with some tough words for Tim Walz's performance.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here.
I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
It kind of reminded me of the June 27th debate when Kamala Harris that night said of Joe Biden, it was a slow start but a strong finish. And that's how I felt that Tim Walz kind of did tonight. J.D. Vance needed to come away as that humble, likable guy from Hillbilly Elegy. It seemed like he did perhaps get some points in that.
In focus now, Caroline Leavitt, Trump 2024 National Press Secretary. First of all, what were the initial reactions inside the campaign last night?
Well, I can tell you, Harris, that the vibes in Trump campaign headquarters today are very high. We are incredibly proud of Senator Vance. He unequivocally won last night's debate, and he proved that President Trump was right to choose him as his running mate. Senator Vance eloquently and effectively prosecuted the case against Kamala Harris's failed record, and he perfectly outlined the real solutions and plans that he and President Trump have to curb the border crisis, to end inflation, to bring back peace on the world stage. And he really pushed Governor Walz into a tough corner last night, proving that Governor Walz is ill-equipped to lead at the highest level of our government, much like his running mate Kamala Harris. We have real problems on our hands right now in this country because of Kamala Harris's failed policies. The world is on fire. We have port workers striking, causing a massive disruption in our supply chain. And you have millions of Americans still without power due to a massive hurricane with no federal government help in sight. We need real effective leadership. Senator Vance and President Trump will provide that.
Yeah, you know, as I was watching, and of course as a journalist, I'm always going to be watching for the questions that are asked. I was really left disappointed by how much we didn't talk about the economy, that it took so long to get there, that the port strike that the Biden-Harris administration could have handled with the Taft-Hartley Act to give an 80-day cooling-off period. That didn't get talked about because those things are affecting people right now. As you point out, it's the economy. Many are also pointing to this as Governor Walz's actually worst moment in the debate. He was faced with a question, Caroline, about his false claim that he was in Hong Kong or China during the Tiananmen Square massacre. And he gave a rather strange non-answer. Let's watch.
Look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead at times.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this.
Wow. Caroline.
He didn't misspeak. He lied multiple times about his visits to China. And it's a question worth asking. And I hope Governor Walz will do more media interviews. Clearly, he needs it, as proven by his shabby debate performance last night. But clearly, how can a public school teacher in Minnesota afford to go to communist China 15 times? That's a question worth asking. We know the Chinese Communist Party likes to take advantage of low-level congressional people like Governor Tim Walz. Is he compromised? We don't know. He has not sat down for interviews to answer those questions, and he should. It's certainly odd that he's taken more than 10 trips to China throughout his political career.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I didn't realize that the number could be as high as 15. And I think 15 anywhere. You mentioned his teacher salary. I never feel teachers make enough money. So I'm right there with you on how did he do it, but also what was going on during all those trips. I do think that that's now got to come up. He opened the door on that, I feel, last night by not even being able to say when he was there definitively and to clear up the mess of whatever that misspeaking was. Voter reaction now I want to show you with the vice presidential debate. Let's hear what voters had to say.
Well, we know that J.D. won.
Tell me, how do you feel about Walz last night? He was supposed to be this relatable guy. Did he accomplish that task last night?
No, he was too nervous.
Why do you think most people, when you look at the independents and the Dows, and even some Democrats still say J.D. Vance won the debate last night?
I think it's because he has had more experience on public stage in debating. And Tim Walz is just your guy next door.
And I want to point out, Lawrence Jones there was in the important battleground state of Michigan. And you're hearing from the voters there. Is this commensurate with what you're hearing in those battleground states? I know they're each different, but I'm curious to know from the ground perspective inside the campaign, what are voters telling you?
Yes, absolutely. And there were a plethora of polls that came out last night showing that undecided voters and the American people definitely thought Senator Vance performed better than Governor Walz, and they trust Senator Vance and President Trump to lead on the issues that matter to them at home, because Senator Vance and both President Trump talk about those issues on the campaign trail every single day. The inflation that is decimating the savings of hardworking families, the border crisis that has led to an invasion of more than 20 million illegal people. Governor Walz couldn't answer the question last night of whether he and Kamala Harris will support mass amnesty for the more than 425,000 convicted criminal illegal aliens that we currently have in this country on their watch. He was in a tough spot, having to try to explain away the failures of Kamala Harris's policies over the past 4 years. Americans know she and Joe Biden are the reason that they are struggling and they are suffering, and that only a change ticket and Senator Vance and President Trump will bring real change and real solutions to this country.
Yeah, it's interesting. Real quickly, part of the job for each candidate last night was to shore up the top of the ticket and give some support. Do you feel like that happened for either of them last night?
It definitely happened on our side. Again, Senator Vance proved that President Trump made the right decision in choosing him as his running mate. Together, they make the most dynamic ticket this country has ever seen, and they are going to be barnstorming the country over the next 5 weeks. Senator Vance is in Michigan today. President Trump will be there tomorrow. They will be talking directly to voters about the issues that matter to them, while, again, Governor Walz continues to hide from the media, and Kamala Harris is absent in the face of these crises that the American people are facing on the world stage, here at home, at the impact of Hurricane Helene, and also this strike that is going to cause massive disruptions to our supply chain. She has no plan in sight to end it.
Look, those two things now go together. One of the busiest ports on the East Coast is supposed to be helpful off the coast of Georgia and supplying people off the coast of the Southeast, I should say, and supplying people in Georgia and other states. And it's out of commission right now. The strike is now colliding with the storm. Epic. We'll see if they show up. Caroline, thank you very much. Good to have you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.